Welcome to Codex History of Video Games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I'm Tyler Osby, and that was Delilah in the background, I think I heard.
That was Delilah in the background. She is here in my room. She's producing, which means she's jumping on various tables and dressers in my room.
Yep, knocking things down. Is she knocking things down, Kat?
She does. Really lately, she's super mischievous, as in she'll eat bread. So she learned, we have like one of those little garage door things, like old school houses, pantries. And she found out how to open that. So we can't keep our bread in there anymore because we'd come home and there would be bread everywhere because she would get into it. But honestly, that's her payment for being a producer, so it's fine. So,
okay, well, hey.
And now that it's empty, I go back in there and I see it's open, and I'm like, you tried to open it. You thought there was stuff in there, and there's not. Take that.
Nice try.
Nice try.
You got to have decoy bread.
Decoy bread. Ooh, I should buy her own bread.
Yeah. I know people who get decoy keyboards for their cats because they have cats that love to sit on their keyboard. They're like, so I bought a decoy keyboard. I just put it off to the side, and the cat's fine with that.
She's not a big keyboard cat, but she does get all up in my face while I'm playing games sometimes. But
okay.
That's okay.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us on Codex History of Delilah the cat.
History of my cat. Honestly, that's the dream podcast. If I could just talk about my cat every week, I would do it. But let's get into Donkey Kong. The donkeyest of Kongs.
That's right. So a few weeks ago, we discussed the first Donkey Kong game, the arcade game. It was like this was the arcade game that helped Nintendo break into the American market, right? It was like this strange intersection of timing, luck, and creativity that turned Shigeru Miyamoto's early idea sketches into one of the most important arcade games of all time. They had to like redo all those Radar Scope cabinets, remember? Like,
that was
Radar
such a cool
Scope
story.
Was not, but Radar Scope was not a great game.
It didn't. Too. As a Radar Scope head, I can't go get that cabinet anymore.
That's right. No hotcakes, no gangbusters. Didn't sell. Just too bad. But we talked about how Donkey Kong was a hit. It introduced Mario, who was then known as Jumpman, and it sort of shaped the future of Nintendo's identity. They were starting to get into this world. But what we didn't cover yet is how this single success begins to ripple outward into one of the strangest early sagas in video game history, I think. Maybe that's hyperbole, but I'm gonna go with it here.
No, it's the internet. You gotta clickbait it up, man.
That's true.
You gotta get those views.
Good point. So yeah, because like Donkey Kong is just there's the world that comes out of it is the longest running like genealogy of that Nintendo has in their history, right? Like this is one of their first games, and it basically like just like catapults out. So buckle up, Mike, because I'm about to make these games seem a lot more philosophically important to Nintendo than they ever meant for them to be.
No, I think they're supposed to be. Also, this is where when you say genealogy, you mean how like Cranky Kong was the original Donkey Kong.
The family tree, yeah. We have so many Kongs, right?
There's a lot.
So the first thing we want to talk about today is Donkey Kong Jr., which came out in 1982. This is the only game in Nintendo's entire history where Mario is unambiguously the villain. He is the bad guy in this game, right? He's not a rival. He's not like a misunderstood bystander. He's not a referee, right? He's the antagonist who locks Donkey Kong in a cage and forces his child to come rescue him.
Whoa. Man, you know what this feels like? This feels like Nintendo and Mario specifically have been trying to sweep this under the rug.
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
Don't look into my past. Watch me play tennis.
Yeah,
that's what Mario's saying.
That's right. Yeah, he's like, don't worry about what I did to this giant ape years and years and years ago when I was going through a bad time. Yeah.
Go-karts. Look at these go-karts.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's hard to imagine Nintendo ever making Mario the bad guy today, right? Even like nowadays, it's like, oh, they'll clash, right? Where they're like teasing or competitive or silly. They're racing go-karts or they're like punching each other on a stage, but like we're all friends at the end, right? Everything is a stage play in the Mario universe, it seems, and they're all friends at the end. But in this game, they gave Mario a whip. Like this is a weapon of pain, right? And he is the one releasing the enemies to keep you from reaching your death. You play as Donkey Kong Jr. in this one. And that tonal difference matters.
He's like evil carnival guy.
Yeah, because this is like the first time that difference matters because this is the first time that Nintendo starts to play with the idea of continuity between games. So like you played Donkey Kong, there's a story that gets told in the first Donkey Kong game, right? As you like climb the building to save Pauline, and then the story continues in the next game, which is like not really something that a lot of video games were doing in these days. Remember, this is the early 80s. This is pre video game crash of 82, 83. So yeah, this is where we start to see, because we have Donkey Kong and we have Donkey Kong Jr., this is where we start to see the lineage, the genealogy of the Kong family tree, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the Kongs are a lot of different types of monkeys and gorillas and stuff that, like, I don't know how the family works there, how that
That's
works
true,
biologically. But
Diddy Kong is like a chimpanzee, right?
yeah.
But no, he's got a long tail, though. He's not a chimpanzee. Right?
He is a chimpanzee, but I don't know if chimps have long tails or not.
I don't think they have long tails.
Hmm.
I think what separates like a primate from a like normal like monkey is like tails, right? Like gorillas
right.
don't have tails.
There's no tail.
Don't have tails. Yeah.
But Diddy Kong does. Okay, hold on.
So we got to figure out
what kind of animal is Diddy Kong.
This is important. Also, I found a Nintendo Life poster that says, "Can the son of Donkey Kong save his papa from Little Mario's impenetrable prison?" That's what it says.
Yeah. They gave Mario a name. He's no longer Jumpman.
So the first time we hear about Mario, it's kind of like professional wrestling. It's like he was the heel at this time, and then Mario breaks good later on in the story. Because I'm assuming he's the villain, but because we know that Super Mario Brothers 3 is confirmed has been a stage play, essentially.
Yeah.
This was probably Mario's first role in the Nintendo theatrical dramatic series, right?
Yeah. I think you're right.
So that's good. This is where he broke in before. He was an unnamed extra in Donkey Kong.
Just Jumpman. He was just there.
Now he's Mario, but he's the evil. He's the heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is great. I'm so excited.
I would have loved to see this like back and forth trade-off, but I guess they decide that Mario is too valuable as a character to make the bad guy.
Face. I think babyface.
Babyface is the term. Yeah. That's right. So he has a heel turn for this game and then an abrupt face turn later on in games from which he never turns heel again. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If Mario was a professional wrestler, which we're going to say he is.
That's right. So if Donkey Kong is the aggressor in the first story, holding Pauline captive at the top of that iconic structure, the sequel pulls the camera back a bit here and says, maybe that wasn't the whole story. Maybe, depending on your perspective, hero and villain are not fixed categories. This is getting into the professional wrestling stuff you've been talking about. So the setup here is simple. Donkey Kong, he's chained up. Mario stands guard over him because this is after the events of the first game. And now it is Donkey Kong Jr. who must dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge to free his father from captivity. So right away, you see a shift in how the player interacts with the game world, right? The first Donkey Kong was about ascending ladders and avoiding hazards on this like industrial construction site. But Donkey Kong Jr. is about vines, vertical mobility, and momentum. So instead of ladders, you have like ropes and chains. Instead of a hammer that helps you break through obstacles, there's like a more acrobatic character. His movement is fluid and varied. That's kind of the difference between playing as a monkey and playing as a human, I suppose. You get to swing on vines and stuff when you're a monkey because you're a little bit more athletic and a little bit more gymnastics-y. I don't know if that's a word or not. Gymnastics-y.
It used to be now. Gymnastics-y is a word now.
Yeah.
We made it one.
So that means climbing is one of the most important mechanical principles of Donkey Kong Jr. So if you grab one vine, you climb slowly. If you grab two vines, your climbing speed increases dramatically, kind of at the cost of a larger attack surface for your enemies to hit. If you've ever played Donkey Kong Country 2, the boat levels where you're like climbing up the mast and like the rope on there, if you are holding onto two ropes at the same time, you like go a lot faster. It's the same thing here. So like that it was not a mechanic that was introduced in Donkey Kong Country 2. That was actually introduced in Donkey Kong 2.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have to constantly read the environment, shift between 1 and 2 vines, adjust your pathing to control your speed. And then the enemies are sort of placed around this. So there's like kind of a dance that you do. If you hesitate or you grab the wrong configuration, you lose time, you'll leave yourself open to a collision. And of course, because this is an arcade game from the 80s, you get one hit. You take one hit and that's it. You got to start the level over, right?
You got to give them their quarters.
Yeah, that's right. So the game wants you to feel like nimble and reactive. to what's going on rather than like this like sort of deliberate measured climbing of the first game. Donkey Kong
What do you
Jr.
think?
has what?
What? Well, I was gonna make a dumb joke, but
You
you know
better
what?
make it now.
No, the moment's passed. The moment's passed. It's
No.
too much. It's too much now. Honestly, I think the joke's gonna bomb. I'm afraid now. We got to move on. I got
Okay,
scared.
all right. So there are four
I got
stages.
scared.
Four
Gosh.
stages in Donkey Kong Jr. If should the joke opportunity arise again, please take it.
Okay. You're just laying some serious knowledge today, and I don't want to stop it with my typical baloney that gets us bad reviews. Okay, so we'll just keep going.
Is that what our bad reviews say? They say Mike's
They're
typical
always like
baloney.
no, they're like the cheesy. Remember the cheesy guy, the guy that tells us cheesy jokes. Enough with the cheesy jokes. I'm pretty sure that was for me. Okay.
Wow.
I mean,
You know what I
although
say? We don't get
is
enough
it-
cheesy jokes.
You know what? Okay, I like it. Then never mind. Let's go back to it.
Yeah.
It'll never change.
It'll never
I might
change.
cut this part out, but I probably will forget. So it's gonna stay in the episode. Let's keep going.
So there are four stages in Donkey Kong Jr. And like its predecessor, the loop repeats it. It's just kind of higher and higher speed, more enemies. It's pretty classic arcade design. Eventually, the game becomes impossible for like normal humans to do, and then of course, eventually, it becomes literally impossible because it has a kill screen like any other game in the
Okay,
in the
so it
arcade.
does have.
movies.
Okay, so can human beings make it to the kill screen? Is that not possible then?
I believe human beings can. This is like a Steve Wiebe situation where it's like, yeah, you can make it to
Oh.
the kill screen, but like you got to be basically superhuman at playing these games. I think it's
Solid
technically possible.
Steve Wiebe reference. By the
He
way.
at one point did have the world record on this game for
And it was
points.
legitimate.
And it was legitimate because Steve Wiebe, he doesn't cheat
Yeah, I'm not gonna say who I think cheats
because we could get sued
we could
because
get
this
sued
person is
'cause it's
suing everybody
very
who says they cheat.
litigious.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to use the word litigious in a podcast. So let's keep going.
That's
We're
good.
Steve Wiebe fans. Also Bellevue, local.
Yeah,
Let's give it
that's
up to
true.
that guy.
That's true. Give it up for Bellevue. So yeah, this is like classic arcade game design. Is like sort of just like make 4 levels and then throw your hands up in the air and be like, I don't know, put more bad guys and make it faster, I guess. I'm sure that this is due to like technical limitations like storage. It's also probably true that most people don't make it past the first or second level. Like these games are pretty hard, and once you've fed the game enough like $2 or $3 worth of quarters, you're probably like, okay, I had my fun here.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what these are all about, which is why I feel like I could have designed games in this time period because
Yeah.
you're trying to make some money. You're trying to get them quarters going.
That's
you
right.
know?
And there was not a whole lot of like reference material for like what good games were. So you could kind of just like have an idea and make it and just like hope that it worked out, right?
Dude, you know who we should have on a podcast? And I'm saying who is, and this is a very general, an idea of a person. So this is something I'm looking for. I would love to talk to someone who was working at or owned an arcade in the 80s.
Oh,
Like when they were at the height of their popularity, because when you would get like, I'm assuming they get some sort of catalog of like available arcade games to buy, right?
mm-hmm.
Do they base it by saying, yeah, this is going to make you potentially X amount of money per play? Like how, are you guessing? Are you like saying, well, this machine's just popular among kids, so we're going to buy it because we know that people play it? Or was there any sort of prediction aspect to it of like, this usually takes about this many quarters to play? Like, were there metrics involved?
Oh, that's
for
a great
this?
question. I'm sure at some point those metrics became known. I would, if I'm just taking a guess here, I'm saying a stab in the dark. I think it's like a mixture of, well, what does it seem like the kids love right now? Like if you just have been to other arcades and you just see people crowding around a machine, you go, yeah, I want one of those machines too. But probably if there's some sort of arcade owner magazine where there's like ads for arcades and they're trying to sell you a Donkey Kong cabinet, there's got to be like metrics around like here's sort of like average play session for people is like, oh, people usually like play 3 or 4 quarters worth at a time, right?
Yeah, because that's what they want to go off of, I'm guessing. They want to see how much money they're making.
Right. Yeah, and it's like so it's like how many what the average return per like person is, maybe, I guess, and then you can sort of do the math of like, well, how many people come in here, how many do I expect it to check this game out? That's a
Yeah.
good question. Like how would you know, because these things are expensive, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're buying a machine and it's like $1,000, and this is like
More than
80s
that.
money,
Yeah.
which is like pricey. So I'm like, I want to know, like, I guess I'm as I get older, I'm always curious about how the business of these things work.
Yeah.
Like And so, for example, like my friend owned a comic book shop. We were all going to open one together, but he ended up doing it because we all slowly dropped out, realizing how not financially feasible it was. And he's the one that ended up in it last.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up he opened a comic book shop, but he made most of his money on like magic cards, which now it seems really obvious, but back then this was like 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, like he would buy snacks and sell those for the magic card tournaments, and that was like what made a lot of his money too, right? So it's like how does the business of arcades work like that? Are you selling concessions to kids? Are you doing ticket games for prizes? Are you just making money off the quarters and the machines? I'm just really curious how these places stayed open.
Yeah. Well, I would bet there, if you're talking about an arcade where like that is what you're doing there, you go to the arcade to play arcade games. Probably a combination of like snacks and then of course the quarters from the machine. But then there's also like bars and stuff where it's like, this was not the point of the thing. We have room for one machine in here. Which one do we get? Do we like change it out often? I would bet that there were like companies that would lease space in your bar that's like, hey, I want this like 5 foot by 5 foot square in your bar, and I'm just going to put an arcade machine in here, and I will pay you X amount per month to like do that. And then you like this arcade machine just like sort of gets swapped in and out with whatever that person wants to put in there. I could see that being a business model for a bar owner to be like, yeah, I want people like, I want to get in on this like arcade game thing, but I don't want to do all the research myself to like figure out what arcade cabinets are worth it and then like sell it later when it's like not popular anymore, like that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Dude,
this is great. We should really dive into this. This is a good deep dive on the economics of running an arcade in the 80s.
I feel silly too because I definitely know, because there's a comedy club that has a gamer bar next to it. So maybe I could talk to them and be like, do you know? Like, but I mean, again, it's also like if it's a current business, they probably don't want to talk about it. That's my understanding, right? But if we can go back in time to be like, hey, what was it like running it in the 80s? That would be something.
Yeah,
that I think would be good.
I also think the economics today are a little bit different because a lot of those bars like that are like gamer bars, they don't. Some of them, or a lot of them. Maybe I'm wrong here. You correct me on this, but like a lot of them don't actually charge for you to use the machines. They just want you in the door so that you're buying snacks and drinks and food and stuff. And the arcades are like a way to draw people in, but they don't actually charge that for the arcades. Yeah. But maybe I'm wrong on that.
Dude,
especially like old arcades, like where it's like old 80s arcades. Like I'm not actually going to drop a quarter in to play Pac-Man. I've played enough Pac-Man in my life that I don't need to pay for it right now. Mm-hmm. But I would stand there and watch someone play, or I would stand there and like play a couple of rounds if I had a beer in my hand and like we're just hanging out, right?
We're being silly. Wasn't there a guy that invited us to his barcade in North Carolina over emails?
I think that's
get
true.
An invite? All right, I'm gonna find this. I'm gonna contact that guy. I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah,
this is gonna go great. Me writing things down during the podcast. Sorry, big tangent, everybody. Push the button, Tyler. Delay button. I just got all excited about arcade economics. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm down. Let's keep talking about Donkey Kong Jr. here. So the first stage of Donkey Kong Jr. does something that I really, really love, which is it is the tutorial, but it's like disguise. It's not like here's how to play Donkey Kong. It's like the way the first level works just subtly teaches you the controls and the object of the game. This is something Nintendo was like very famous for doing, I think, in the early days. That first level of Super Mario Brothers is like, here's a bad guy. If you touch it, you die. If you jump over it, you probably hit this block, and now you know what happens when you hit the blocks with your head, right? And like so on and so forth. Like here's a pipe. If you go down the first pipe in the game, you can go down, right? Or you can't go down all of them, like that kind of stuff. But they don't ever say, here's how to play Super Mario Brothers. Press A to jump, right? It's just it's just like
intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that when games do that, when that first level is just like the tutorial. A lot of puzzle games will do something where they'll like sort of introduce mechanics and then like bring those mechanics back around to like solve a puzzle differently later. I think that's really, really cool. So this first level is all about the vines. It shows the player that you're going to have to climb vines to get to the top of the level. So it introduces the climbing mechanic, makes it clear that that's important for the entire game, right? The second level introduces moving platforms and some springboard timing. Now, I think this is also interesting because what were tools of the enemy in the first game, those springs that like hop and fall in the third level, they are your ally in the second game because you can bounce on them. So the second level teaches you about the springboards. And there are a lot more enemies, like varied enemies in this level. So again, you're climbing to the top to get the key to save your papa. You said this earlier when you were like reading an ad for it, I think, where it says "Help Donkey Kong Jr. save his papa." That's what it says in the
Papa.
game. He's referred to as your papa in the game, which I don't know. I find that kind of charming. Like it's not like
It is
save,
kind of charming. It's sweet.
yeah, save your
But that
papa.
also infers that Donkey Kong Jr. is a child.
Yes,
Like, so.
but I think I mean if you look at him, he's significantly smaller than Donkey Kong. I think it's pretty clear DK Jr. is a child in this game.
Okay. I
Yeah.
just feel bad we're making this poor child go save his kid. That's
I know.
very traumatic.
That's why Mario is terrible in this game. He's an awful person, and I hope he has changed his ways, or maybe this darkness is still within him.
Always been inside him.
Yeah.
And he's just hiding it. Oh no.
Yeah. I don't know if this is ever like the Papa thing is ever referenced anywhere else in the DK games, but I think that would be like a fun reference to make. So I'm gonna look out for that.
Donkey Kong Jr. is probably an older Donkey Kong now.
It's yeah, there's some speculation, and we'll get into this a little bit, but there is much speculation that Donkey Kong Jr. is the Donkey Kong of Donkey Kong Country. And that Cranky Kong is this game's Donkey Kong.
Okay.
The way that Cranky tells his stories, he's like, back in the old days, it was just one screen, and I climbed at the top of the building, and then the Jumpman came and defeated me. So you're like, so this is not the same Donkey Kong.
So Donkey Kong Jr. is our Donkey Kong Country's Donkey Kong. Okay.
Yeah, what is generally referred to as Donkey Kong these days. This is some speculation because Cranky also sometimes says that DK in those games is his grandson, but in this game it's his son. So it's a little wibbly wobbly.
Cranky
And this
Kong, he's an older guy. He's seen a lot.
That's
His
true.
memories aren't always remembered.
That's true. And this is why I say, like, when we go into analyzing the family tree here, I'm over analyzing it because I'm putting more thought into this than Nintendo did, clearly. I think.
And
Nintendo
I
and
think
Rare.
that's what gives us the hard-hitting journalism that we show off to the people every Monday. Okay.
Yeah,
Is that
that's right.
we overanalyze the Donkey Kong family tree.
That's right. So the third level of Donkey Kong Jr. adds electrical sparks, and this is like the most punishing section of the early loop. Like when you get to this level, it's like a massive spike in difficulty, I think. Kind of forces you to thread the needle between hazards that are all synced to different timing intervals. You've got to like go up and down one vine at a time. Sometimes you need to be going up and down two vines at a time. But again, there's a downside there where there's more surface area for you to get hit if you're going up two vines, even if you're moving faster. It's very crazy. I don't know if you've seen this level, Mike. It is. I played it for research, and it's basically impossible. Like I didn't get past the third level. Like it's basically impossible.
I have not seen it, but now I'm going to watch people try to speed run it.
Yeah. So then the final stage is Mario's Cage for Donkey Kong, where the player must climb across a network of locks and keys. So he's climbing up the vines, and he has to push the keys to the top and put them in their slots. And he kind of has to do them one at a time. You can do them two at a time if you're feeling if they're right next to each other and you're climbing up two vines at the same time. You can push two at the same time. But again, massive downsides to doing that. But if you do it right, you can get two keys in at the same time. Yeah. So once you do that, once you release the last lock there, Donkey Kong is freed. Mario is flung off the stage in defeat. He's like kicked with a boot or something. And then we cycle back to the beginning because it's the 80s and arcade games never end. They just get progressively harder. Yeah. So it kind of reminds me though of the last level of the original Donkey Kong where Jumpman is like destroying the structural integrity of the building in order to like defeat Donkey Kong. Only this time you are unlocking locks and causing the thing to fall, and that breaks the cage open for Donkey Kong to escape and for Mario to be defeated. So we're just like constantly subverting expectations here. It's almost Shakespearean in the way Mario's success in the first game is his undoing in the second game.
Yeah, honestly, it is also like Mario sees himself become the villain.
That's right.
By caging Donkey Kong from the first game.
Yeah.
He doesn't forgive.
He got so wrapped up in his tale of vengeance for Pauline.
Mm-hmm.
He's so mad at Donkey Kong even after he has saved Pauline that he captures him. So what makes Donkey Kong Jr. particularly fascinating, I think, in a broader historical sense, is its role in Nintendo's character development. And here's where we're gonna go too deep here. So after this game, Nintendo formally begins distinguishing the Donkey Kong characters across generations. So the original Donkey Kong, the one from the arcade game, eventually becomes the character we now know as Cranky Kong in the Donkey Kong Country series. Donkey Kong Jr. grows up to be the modern Donkey Kong, the big tie-wearing, barrel-throwing hero of the Rare and Retro Studio games and all the all other games. The decision to create a generational lineage in the Donkey Kong family is unusual because it's one of the only times Nintendo directly commits to long-term continuity for characters that begin as arcade mascots, like so way back in these early days. Mario remains Mario, Bowser remains Bowser throughout these games. Link is like sort of reincarnated across eras, but he's like still like the same, generally the same kind of guy.
Yeah.
But the Donkey Kong timeline is a family saga. There's continuity here. Cranky Kong tells stories of the old days with him and Mario on the building. There are very few hard and fast rules here, though, I think, because Miyamoto has sometimes said that DK from DK Donkey Kong Country is Cranky Kong's son. Sometimes he's his grandson. Miyamoto doesn't seem to know. He probably also doesn't care. He's like, "What are you nerds are reading way too far into this. Who cares?"
He's like, everyone needs to calm down.
Yeah.
Okay, and just enjoy the games.
Yeah, sometimes it's implied that Donkey Kong Jr. is Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country. Other times, Donkey Kong Jr. is a separate character from Donkey Kong. Like in certain games, we'll have both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., which doesn't necessarily mean they're separate characters because there are games that have like Baby Mario and Baby Luigi in them, and I don't think of them this way as like being separate characters from Mario and Luigi. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi, and like, there's some sort of, if we're trying to justify this, there's some sort of time travel going on here, but whatever, it's all just sort of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, right? So it's not always clear, but it's like there was enough of an attempt here to talk about, I guess. So there's like a concept of continuity here, right? I kind of like that.
Yeah, I do too, and I think I want to believe in it. You know, I want to believe that there is continuity that was planned here.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's what I want to feel.
Me too. So if Donkey Kong Jr. is a direct narrative follow-up and a mechanical evolution of the first game, then the next game, which we're going to talk about, just takes this everything that we have learned so far and goes in a completely different direction. We're gonna talk about Donkey Kong 3. Do you have anything left you want to talk about Donkey Kong Jr. first, though?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I have played Donkey Kong Jr. I have never played or remember playing Donkey Kong 3 in an arcade. Like,
that's
I can't
because
remember it.
I want to say there were only about 5,000 arcades made of Donkey Kong 3, and all of them were conversion kits. They didn't sell a dedicated. I got this from a video game historian video. They, according to the video game historian, they did not sell standalone Donkey Kong 3 cabinets.
They were just conversions. Okay.
Yeah, it did not do very well in the arcades. Like I said, it only sold about 5,000 units, which the numbers are always smaller for arcades, obviously, but like even for arcades, 5,000 is not very much.
That's low, yeah.
Yeah. So Donkey Kong 3 came out in 1983, and it is where the Donkey Kong saga takes a left turn that's so sharp that most players, even those familiar with the original, may not recognize this game at all. It is not a platformer. Well, kind of. It is not a chase game. It is only like mechanically adjacent to previous entries in the series, like on the surface. When you look at it, it kind of looks similar. But once you dig in, you find that Donkey Kong 3 plays far more like a shooter. It's much more like Galaga than it is like Mario. So you're gonna have like monster waves, a little bit of light platforming, and you're shooting upward. Like that is what is happening here. You're shooting upward, and that is the only direction that you can shoot. So in Donkey Kong 3, you are no longer Mario. You are no longer Donkey Kong Jr. Instead, you play as a new character called Stanley the Bugman.
What?
Yeah. Which, let's just take a pause here. Think about this guy. A character who has largely vanished from Nintendo history outside of some light cameo references, some like collectible trophies in Smash Bros. Games.
I was going to say,
sometimes as a joke.
Shown up in Smash Bros. Is where he would show up, if anywhere.
Yeah, I think the most prominent place he shows up in Smash Bros. Is actually Mr. Game & Watch. Has a little like bug repellent weapon thing. That's one of his like moves. I don't know that much about Smash, but that bug repellent, I believe, is a reference to Stanley the Bugman, because that's his main weapon of choice in this game is bug repellent. So Stanley is a greenhouse keeper, and his problem is not love triangles or construction site rivalries. His problem is a very practical one. Donkey Kong is hanging from the rafters of his greenhouse, shaking beehives loose and unleashing swarms of insects. Your goal in Donkey Kong 3 is to protect the flowers that are at the bottom of the screen from invading bugs, while also driving Donkey Kong upward and eventually out of the greenhouse entirely. Your weapon is bug spray, and you shoot upward in vertical lanes while moving left and right along the ground. It's not clear where these beehives come from, but unless Donkey Kong brought them here himself, it seems like a little bit of a skill issue on the part of Stanley the Bugman for being an exterminator that is unable to keep bees out of his own greenhouse.
Wow, you really just called out Stanley like that. Man,
Maybe that's why we don't see him again after that. He resigned in disgrace.
Saying it's a skill issue? Ooh.
I mean, if you got all these bees in your greenhouse, Stanley, and you're an exterminator, I mean.
Also, you call yourself the Bug Man.
Yeah. So
it's rough.
Maybe there's a reason Stanley didn't really show up anywhere else after this.
Poor Stanley.
Yeah. But the pacing of Donkey Kong 3 is sharper and more frenetic than either of the earlier games. The player is constantly balancing these two overlapping goals. He's got to clear the insects before they descend to steal your flowers and apply constant upward pressure to Donkey Kong so that he climbs towards the top of the screen and out of the greenhouse. If you fail to keep pressure on either layer, the game quickly overwhelms you and you're going to get hit by bugs. And again, one hit, that's it. That's all you get. So there's some light platforming in that you have to like jump between different layers of platforms that you move left and right on. But it's nothing like what the first two games ask of the player. And you do need to be at those higher levels to be able to hit Donkey Kong with your bug spray. But sometimes you need to be at the lower levels because if you play the game, it will make sense. Like that's how you got to kill the bees and stuff that are flying around.
Was this a Shigeru Miyamoto game?
Wait,
yeah, he's the director.
Yeah.
He's the director of it. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what made him want to just change it all up. You know what I mean?
That's a good question, and we will sort of get there a little bit later. At least we'll get to the discussion of that. I don't know if we have any answers for you.
Yeah, we always discuss here. So
yeah.
It's good.
Yep. If you shoot Donkey Kong enough, but not all the way to the top, he will drop a little power up thing that gives you like a bigger bug spray bullets, and then you can actually hit Donkey Kong from the bottom layer. So you kind of want to get to that point, grab the thing, and then just blast Donkey Kong till you win. You win the level when Donkey Kong gets out of the greenhouse. Everything else, you're trying to keep those flowers at the bottom because you get more points if you end the level with the flowers. So
narratively, the story is, oh no, Donkey Kong, this gorilla, got into my greenhouse and is messing everything up. Stanley's hired to get the Donkey Kong out of the greenhouse.
Yeah, it's Stanley's greenhouse, I believe.
So Stanley owns the. So there's no like, it's less malicious. There's no kidnapping. There's no prisoners involved. This is a lot more of just oh no.
Yeah, you could interpret
Donkey
this
Kong's
as
in my greenhouse.
Yeah, you could interpret this as, oh no, Donkey Kong is in my greenhouse. He is nefarious and trying to steal my stuff, and so I need to get him out of here. You could also, if you look at this from Donkey Kong's perspective, he just wandered into a greenhouse and maybe he saw some beehives that he wanted to mess around with. He doesn't really know what he's doing. So there may not be a real bad guy in this game.
I think it's just nature.
I think it's just a gorilla doing gorilla stuff.
Like
it's hard to.
If I made a video game about the raccoons digging up my lawn to eat the grubs out of it, it would be like Donkey Kong 3.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
Yeah. And in
Which
that
I
story,
did have a problem with for a couple of years.
Did you fix it? Did you get Stanley the Bugman?
I was Stanley I was Stanley. I guess I would be the Bugman because the grubs were the problem. The grubs were the reason that the raccoons were showing up, and the crows would eat my lawn. Oh. I didn't solve it though. Yeah, you got to treat your lawn.
Yeah,
I didn't know. So.
You got to get those grubbies out of there.
Mm-hmm. Home ownership is hard, is what I'm trying to say. And Stanley is. I mean, I didn't have to deal with Donkey Kong breaking into my greenhouse.
Well, hey, count yourself lucky then, because Stanley was not so fortunate.
What I'm trying to say is I relate to Stanley the Bugman, okay? And I feel kind of sad that he's not in anything else, really.
Yeah. Justice for Stanley.
Where did Stanley go?
Yeah. So yeah, Donkey Kong 3 visually kind of looks like a Donkey Kong game. The ape sprite is similar. The cabinet artwork carries that same branding forward. And like I said earlier, they never actually made any dedicated arcade cabinets for this game. They were all conversion kits for other cabinets, other Nintendo cabinets. But in terms of gameplay logic and mechanical identity, this is an entirely different game. It's got Donkey Kong like art on the outside, and it's got Donkey Kong on the inside as a character. But if you replace this game with Donkey Kong, or you replace the Donkey Kong with any other like antagonist, this game bears no resemblance to Donkey Kong at all.
Feels very Super Mario Brothers 2 in that way.
Yes, I think that is an accurate way to put this. So there are two reasons I think that this happened. So the first is that Nintendo, like all arcade manufacturers at the time, was experimenting constantly. Genres didn't really exist yet. We just didn't know all of the possibilities for what games could be. So remember, like only a few years earlier, video games were just Pong and Pong ripoffs, and that's what people like. If you said video game, that's what people thought you meant. Like was just Pong.
Yeah.
Right?
What's funny is you even kind of proved it in your own notes when you're saying it's like Galaga, because that's the only thing that could have compared it to at that time.
Yeah.
Was Galaga.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yep. So they were looking for like new mechanical hooks that might replicate the extreme success of Donkey Kong. And a fixed shooter with like a layered defensive play seemed like a promising direction, I suppose. And adapting Donkey Kong into that format probably seemed efficient. They probably also didn't want to just like make the same game again either. So I also think that the second reason here is that the market was shifting rapidly. So by 1983, when Donkey Kong 3 came out, the arcade landscape had begun to move away from these like ladder climbing style games. Shooters were becoming massively profitable. Games like Galaxian, Galaga demonstrated the power of simple escalating patterns that challenge players through speed and pattern recognition rather than narrative framing. These games were more about the game part and just shooting aliens, which, hey, we all know shooting aliens is fun.
It's great.
Yeah, I think Donkey Kong 3 is maybe Nintendo's attempt to move the Donkey Kong brand into that lane. It's like maybe their way of like trying to and there might have been a little bit of trying to make up for Radar Scope, because Radar Scope was this style of game a couple of years earlier. So looking back, I think we can easily criticize this, call it a mistake. But I think given the information that they had at the time, I can understand why they did this. It's easy to look at in hindsight, but because video games were so new at the time and everybody was just like sort of flying by the seat of their pants, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, try different things. See what works.
Yeah. Like see what sticks, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So the result is a game that feels like an evolutionary branch off of so now we're in this like metaphysical genealogy of video games, not the literal genealogy of apes, but this like evolutionary branch of Donkey Kong that games that never really took root. It's not remembered as fondly as the first Donkey Kong or even Donkey Kong Jr., which also was not super well received. To compared to the first game. But it is still historically significant because it represents Nintendo's searching. The company was not yet unified. They didn't have like that consistent brand identity that we know today. Mario was not their main like dude, right? That's why they would make him an antagonist, because they didn't know that Mario was going to be bigger than Mickey Mouse later on. So I think Donkey Kong 3 is like one of the clearest artifacts of this period of experimentation. And it's worth remembering for that reason alone. It's sort of just like Nintendo grasping at straws in the dark. Could be considered maybe, well, I don't want to say their first like failure, but maybe their first, one of the earlier failures.
Lesson learned too, I guess.
Yeah. This was definitely a lesson learning thing.
So remember when I did the book on Nintendo before video games, and we covered that for like a spell? Like, so there is a sequel to that book that goes into like video games, and I'm really curious to see what they say about Donkey Kong 3, because it's going to be in that book. Mm-hmm. But again, book's out of print, and it's like $100. So
yikes.
I got to save up for these books.
Yeah.
Talk about them on the podcast, but
expensive books. Yeah. They did make some home versions of Donkey Kong 3, and I think those kind of tell us something about early Nintendo's approach to platform transitions. So the arcade version is like very crisp, fast, intense. When they ported it to the NES, and this was a few years later, of course, the game is slower, it's simplified, it's less aggressive in its pacing. This was pretty common at the time because early NES hardware was like not able to replicate the clock speed that arcade games ever. Remember in like the 80s and 90s when it was like, this console is like having an arcade in your home. And that was like, the arcade was always the like, this is the pinnacle of gaming, and like anything we can do to get you closer to that was like well received by players. Like, so this is an artifact of that, because the home console versions of arcade games tend to be like slower, it's more simplified, a little bit more dumbed down. Both, I think, because they wanted to make an actual fun game that you would play at home, and that it wasn't necessarily trying to eat your quarters, but also just because the hardware couldn't keep up, right? Mm-hmm. It just wasn't as good. So, yeah, and I think that kind of contributes to the way Donkey Kong 3 is remembered as well. To many players, especially in North America, Donkey Kong 3 did not feel like a natural continuation of the Donkey Kong legacy that they were used to playing in the arcade. It felt like a spin-off whose tone and goals were just like unclear. Stanley didn't come back in any future games in any sort of capacity beyond like either a joke or like a brief cameo.
Bring back Stanley the Bug Man. That's our what we're saying. The
That's right.
John Glames of Donkey Kong.
That's right. Donkey Kong himself did not remain a villain or antagonist figure in quite the same way again either. He's in games where he is with Mario, he's much more of just like a friendly rival or like competitive person. They don't really share games after this, except for like the Mario parties and the big crossover games where all of the Mario characters come together, all these Nintendo characters come together. I think this game was just kind of a moment in time rather than a foundation for like what future games would be. But I do want to take a moment here to pour one out for Stanley the Bugman.
We love Stanley the Bugman.
I know this game wasn't great, and he's definitely just kind of a weird artifact of his time, but I'd like to see him brought back. I think the pest extermination profession is underrepresented in gaming.
I think so too.
I don't think there are enough pest control games. I know that some exist. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I think it's underrepresented. And I think Nintendo has the chops to pull off something like this and bring back Stanley the Bugman. Are you with me, Mike?
I'm with you. I think Stanley the Bugman walked so Luigi's Mansion could run. That's what I think happened.
I think you're right. I think you put a Stanley the Bugman skin over Luigi's Mansion, and suddenly this isn't a game about ghosts. This is a game about bug extermination.
I want to make a Doom clone where it's Stanley the Bugman and replace all the demons with giant bugs. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's make that a thing.
And then the final boss is Donkey Kong in the greenhouse.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll get taken down by Nintendo. That'll be great.
That's right. Yep. But it'll be worth it for the brief period of time where this exists. So, yeah. All right. So I'm about to read way too far. I want to kind of like combine these games together into like a sort of formal legacy analysis here.
Honestly, I feel like this entire podcast today is watching us as an audience and me as your co-host, watching you descend into madness over Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong 3. And it's all about to come to a head right now. And I'm very excited to hear you say. I'm not going to interrupt. I'm going to let you go.
You are just setting me up. Gosh, I hope I can live up to your expectations here. So, so when we step back and we look at these three games, Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong 3, and when we look at them together, what emerges is a portrait of Nintendo figuring out what it means to create character continuity and mechanical identity. The first Donkey Kong introduces the characters in the world. Donkey Kong Jr. reframes the moral center of this world, shifts the protagonist, demonstrates Nintendo's willingness to reinterpret its own characters. And then Donkey Kong 3 steps outside the platforming lineage entirely and asks, what can this brand name attach to? What genres can we adapt into a recognizable identity? What mechanics feel true to this character space? Not these mechanics, but hey, you live and learn, and when it's 100 floors of frights, they're not all going to be winners.
True.
To the immortal Kenan Thompson's words from that SNL sketch from like 8 years ago.
It's such a good sketch, though.
If you are unfamiliar with the David Pumpkins sketch from Saturday Night Live, you should go familiarize yourself with it because
David Pumpkins came back like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they were going to do a David Pumpkins animated series. I don't know if that ever went anywhere.
Oh man,
but anyway,
that sounds like it could go the way of Stanley the Bugman if they're not careful.
It's worth a watch. Also, we're in spooky season right now, so it's thematically appropriate. But what's particularly striking is how Nintendo handles Mario across this arc. In the first game, Mario is a protagonist. It's good versus bad. Donkey Kong has kidnapped a person, and it's up to Mario to save him, or Jumpman at the time. In Donkey Kong Jr., he becomes a figure of authority and cruelty. And then, after public reception and internal reflection, Nintendo removes him from the situation entirely. Mario's future path becomes heroic, bright, and friendly. Maybe he learned his lesson from being the bad guy in DK Jr. He saw what he's capable of. He saw he's capable of a great darkness. And he chose not to go down that path after a child kicks his butt and teaches him what's right. That's what happened. He learned a lesson from an actual child, and that set. So Donkey Kong Jr. is a very important character in the development of Mario as a character, as a person. Why Mario is such a moral, upstanding, driven by goodness person now is pretty directly because of Donkey Kong Jr., I think.
See, that's pretty big. That's pretty big to me, Tyler.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to say, I know you said you were worried you weren't going to live up to your expectations, but I think you did. Okay. Wow. Also, I feel like this whole genealogy of the Donkey Kong family tree here is what perhaps made Nintendo say, we're not doing this ever again. Because everyone talks about like the timeline of Zelda. We went into it in our Zelda episodes, and Nintendo's like, why do all of you care? That's really what it feels like.
What do you mean? It's just a game. Who cares? What difference does it make if Ocarina of Time is before or after Link to the Past?
Yeah, and they like connected them together because people like demanded they do, but then it doesn't make sense because they never planned on it making sense.
Yeah, and it also
So
doesn't matter. It changes nothing.
yeah, but I think this is a good lesson in that, and like why Nintendo is the way they are today, and why they say like everything is just like a play. You know, like they're just characters that come back, the same cast to
Yeah,
come into a new video game or show, and like Mario Party is just like a game show. Like it
yeah.
just changing it up all the time, and I think this is the origins of that.
Yes, I think you're probably right here, and yeah, that's why Nintendo says, "Hey guys, it's really not that serious."
Yeah.
So that's Mario's path. He goes down this path and becomes a better person because of it. Donkey Kong's future path becomes comedic and like more tribal because of all of the Kongs in this world. Their conflict becomes exaggerated, cartoonish, and theatrical rather than personal or moral. The darkness of Donkey Kong Jr. is excised. Mario's whip, which he had a whip in that game, which is
That's
wild in hindsight.
That is crazy. That's
Yeah.
a crazy thing to have in a video game for children.
I know, and like Nintendo has made a point of like never giving Mario like real weapons. Even the weapons he gets in Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle are like they're like more like Nerf.
Cartoony.
Yeah, they're cartoony, like more like
Yeah.
Nerf guns than they are, just because they needed something to make them like ranged. I guess he could have just
Mhm.
thrown fireballs, but that is an ability he has in those games. So anyway,
Well, you don't want
um,
Mario running around with like an AK-47. That doesn't make a lot of sense to you. So it makes
that's true.
sense good
That's
for
true.
them.
Yeah. So the company quickly realizes that Mario cannot be morally ambiguous if he is to become the universal mascot that they need him to be. And I don't know when they decided that Mario was going to be that. I got to assume that's probably shortly after the Super Mario Brothers game just like destroys the world or takes over the world. That's when they realized, okay, this Mario guy's got some juice in him. But they called him that in Donkey Kong Jr. So they were maybe starting to get ready to make this guy a more, maybe they knew about the Mario Bros game that they were working on, the little plumber one, and then the Super Mario Brothers game was probably in development by this point because the NES would have been, I think it was out in Japan by this point. The launch days of the NES are like not known to people. Like it came out in Japan
yeah.
and it's like doesn't really know, people don't really know exactly when it came out in Japan, and then it came out in like New York for a little while, but nobody really knows the exact day, and then it took over the rest of the country in the United States, but like nobody like quite knows like the day that these games came out. So we don't really know what the development process was for those, but it is possible that they knew that they were going to want to do more with Mario by the time they were making Donkey Kong Jr. So yeah, so at this point in time, they might have been realizing what they want him to be. He wasn't created for the first Donkey Kong with the idea in mind that he'd go on to be the face of Nintendo, a character bigger than Mickey Mouse himself, which is true. More kids recognized Mario in the 80s and early 90s than they would Mickey Mouse. So yeah, at that point, he was just a dude, didn't even have his own name. They didn't even see fit to name him. And maybe that's what drove him to darkness. In a darker,
Ooh.
grittier Mario game, we might have seen him later come across his whip and with great sadness and regret in his past, reject it.
Talking about Super Mario Noir?
Yes.
What you're talking about?
In a Super Mario Noir, he would probably come across this whip in his closet and it would be a reminder of bad times. And maybe he would grab it and go and have a bad time for a little while, or maybe he would reject it. It depends on the storyline.
And I think Mario's friend Duke Nukem would show up and also
That's right.
be really
That's
sad and reject his past.
That's right. Did you ever watch There Will Be Brawl, that like web series? It came out in like 2009. It is
No,
basically
what is
Super
this?
Mario Noir.
Oh my gosh.
It is
There
worth
Will
a
Be
watch.
Brawl.
Yeah, it is worth a watch. It is. It's not. It's very serious, but it is kind of funny to see Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach in this like film noir murder mystery like sort of thing happening. Like the story is very serious, but it's just funny to see these characters in it.
I love it. I'm excited. There will be brawl.
Yeah. But yeah, Donkey Kong is allowed to live in chaos after this. He becomes a character who can be a villain, he can be a hero, he can be just a comedic obstacle, he can be a rival in Mario Kart, a platforming hero in Donkey Kong Country, an excavator in Donkey Kong Bonanza, a boss fight, a friend, a family patriarch, an unruly whippersnapper, or a cranky old man. Donkey Kong becomes flexible, Mario becomes fixed, and the entire tonal future of Nintendo springs from that decision. That's
deep
a lot of
analysis.
that's a lot of hyperbole. And I look
No.
forward to being told why I'm wrong.
I think it's perfect.
But I just got into a mood yesterday when I was researching this, and I was like, you know what? Let's make some connections here that probably aren't real.
You started writing this like Stephen King wrote his novels in the 80s, just ripping it out like it's the best thing that ever happened in the world.
Yeah. And I also won't remember having written this. Yeah.
Did I write this?
So what we have in Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong 3 is a pair of historical artifacts that capture the transitional moment when Nintendo discovers that what these characters will eventually mean. Donkey Kong Jr. shows the possibility of generational storytelling. Donkey Kong 3 shows the volatility of experimentation and the willingness to go in unexpected directions. These games are foundational. They are endlessly replayed and endlessly referenced, and that shapes the way that Nintendo learned to think about their characters. Am I reading way too much into a few silly arcade games meant for children? Yes, I am.
No, not enough.
So what? Yeah. Miyamoto, who is a friend of the podcast, he's probably listening to us right now going, hey, man, it's not that deep. This is a Wendy's.
He's just in a Wendy's listening to us. Shigeru Miyamoto always listens to our podcast when he's eating Wendy's.
That's right. He's always listening to our podcast. So in the future, we're going to take this story into the Game Boy era with Donkey Kong for the Game Boy, also known colloquially as Donkey Kong 94. This is a moment where Nintendo takes everything they learned from these experiments and they build one of my favorite puzzle platformers of all time. Yeah, this is a game I spent a lot of time with as a kid. I think it's one of the most overlooked masterpieces in the company's history, and it deserves a little bit of the spotlight here. So I'm continuing with the hyperbole stuff today. I'm just really on one, and I won't apologize for it, Mike.
I don't think you should. I think this was great. This is like, we don't really share our episodes when we do them between us until we record. I'm super glad I didn't, because I just, this was like just watching a show for me, just sitting back and relaxing.
A little bit different from some of the other stuff. But I don't know.
No, I think this was more like written like an essay. And I think that was really good because you have a point here at the end. And I think you make a very strong case and a strong point for why these two games are so important. So,
thanks.
I'm not even trying to toot your horn. I really do think you made a good case for what these two games are. And now I really want to go play them. So,
yeah. Well, hey, and if anybody disagrees or thinks that, hey man, it's not that deep, I welcome that feedback.
The hey man, it's not that deep argument is an invalid argument in my opinion, because what's the point of humanity if you're not going to like read into media and like think about what it means and stuff like that? You know what I mean? That's the fun of like playing a video game, or is like chatting about it with people. So I think it is that deep.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate your solidarity on this one.
I stand with Tyler on this one, and I stand with Stanley the Bugman.
Yes, we stand Stanley the Bugman.
We do stand Stanley the Bugman. Stanley, everybody.
Close relative of Stickley. So, Mike, as we reach the end of the episode here, I got one question for you, and that question is, what you been playing?
Oh, what a week. This has been a good week of video games for me. So Battlefield 6, I beat the campaign, which is hilarious because if you ask me what the campaign's about, no idea. Don't care. It's just classic military baloney story that no one cares about, but it feels like you're playing a movie and it's pretty fun. So I did that. I've been playing some Battlefield 6 multiplayer with my brother and stuff, and that's really cool too. And then I played some more Silk Song. I didn't really get, I still haven't gotten the third act. I feel like I'm messing something up. So I've been, trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And then I was playing a big part of it last night, and it was a windstorm, and my power went out. So I lost all my progress. And then I was like, I'm taking a break for a little bit. So the big news is, and I haven't even booted it up yet, but I installed it. Jurassic World Evolution 3 came out, and I am a sucker for those games. I got all the achievements on the second one. I almost got all the achievements on the first one, but they don't have a fast forward on that game, and it makes the game go really slowly. You have to actually wait, which is really annoying. So yeah, Jurassic World Evolution 1, I don't really recommend to people. Jurassic World Evolution 2, highly recommend. And the 3 is installed, and I plan on playing it today, and I'm very excited about it. But yeah, what you been playing this week?
I'm all about the Final Fantasy Tactics still. When I have time to put into some games, I put an hour or two into Final Fantasy Tactics. I think I am roughly hitting the halfway point on it. I have been doing a little bit of level grinding. Some of the level grinding is less about like, oh, I need to do this in order to be strong enough to beat the next thing, and more about, because of the way the jobs unlock, it's more about like wanting to see the jobs unlock and see what abilities they have and stuff like that. And I know I can look it up on the internet, but I choose to level grind instead.
That's better, man. It's better to just kind of find out and see. Like I think it was Silk Song at first. I was like, what am I supposed to be doing here? And I was like, no, just play the game. See what if the game is well designed, you're gonna get there. You know what I mean? Like that's the nature of it. So,
that's what I've been spending most of my time on. I spent a little bit more time playing Borderlands, the pre-sequel, mostly because I've been experimenting with running PC games on my Retroid Pocket 5. And I got Borderlands, a pre-sequel, running using an application called GameHub that can play PC games. It's a little unstable. It kind of crashes sometimes, but I was playing the PC version of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, at like 40 frames per second. Sometimes it got up to 60 on my Retroid Pocket 5.
That's crazy.
It's running a cell phone CPU that was like top of the line like 6 years ago.
So I have here my Retroid Pocket.
Yeah, and the flip is the same thing as the 5, only cooler because it flips open instead of being like PSD
so you're
form factor.
saying I might want to try and play some PC games on this bad boy.
Yeah.
To go.
Download GameHub. You download GameHub and then you sign into Steam on it, and you could just download your games and try them. Most of them don't work. No, they play on the device. Most games don't work.
Okay.
But
that's the key.
If you're willing to tweak some settings and like mess around with it, you can kind of get stuff to work, and you can kind of see what other people have been doing online. And it's improving all the time. It feels like every week or two, there's like some big update that makes a lot more things work. I know Silk Song runs on it perfectly, 60 frames a second, no problem.
We should try playing Left 4 Dead on there.
Ooh, that might work. I bet it does.
Because it's an older game, so it might be the hardware is not going to be what stops us from running it.
Yeah, it would be.
Can we play Left 4 Dead 2-player on our Retroid Pockets?
Probably. I bet we can.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yep.
A challenge that we should go for. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love Left 4 Dead.
So yeah, right. I love Android handhelds because for this reason, because there's like tons of development happening across like all kinds of different emulators, PC emulators, Switch emulators. Like this, it is a cool time to be an Android handheld enthusiast. And the Retroid Pocket 5 is not even the most powerful. I mean, it's a couple years old now, so if you get a newer one, they run stuff even better.
Yeah, this is awesome, dude. I'm excited. Let's try it. Let's try to play Left 4 Dead this week.
Let's try to play some Left 4 Dead. Yeah, I'm down.
That sounds really cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's the show today, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. In the future, we'll go into Donkey Kong 94. I don't want to make promises about when that's going to be, but I do love that game, and I want to talk about it.
All right. And then everyone, just in your thoughts tonight, before you go to bed, think of Stanley the Bugman. Okay? Just remember Stanley.
Yep.
Because he tried so hard to be a Nintendo staple, and he got left behind.
It's too bad.
We think it's unfortunate.
Nintendo brought back Pauline for Super Mario Odyssey.
Bring back Stanley, you cowards. Okay, Sorry for calling you a coward, Nintendo. That was a little too strong.
Miyamoto is like, hey, man.
Hey, man. I'm like, I know. Friend of the podcast. Why would I say that about him? I would never say that. He's the best. Okay. So things you can do to support our podcast. You can go to codexpodcast.net. That's got all our links on it, the Discord invite, all our contact info, our Trello boards and everything. You can just tell your friends about the podcast. That helps a lot, too. And then you can leave us a review anywhere you listen to the podcast. A positive review really helps out. A negative review hurts my feelings, but, honesty is good, I guess. So there's that. And with that, Tyler, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.